We met actually from Jay Kender and Mike Reese back in the day. And we were both, Brett was one of the coaches for their coaching organization, and we became great friends. Now we're in Go Abundance together. So, Brett, for any of the people, there may only be one person here that doesn't know you. Can you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. So my personal career. So I'm Silicon Valley born and bred. Actually, I was born at Stanford Hospital way back in the day. Grew up in San Jose. Family moved here when I was 5. Coming out of college, went to work for Tony Robbins, your guy in the background there, for 2 years, which was a wild, fun ride. Traveled around the world a dozen or so times. Spent 200 days on the road. Walked on fire more times than I could count. Left that in '99. Then went on as life faced serendipity would have it. I actually went and worked for another icon in personal development, Deepak Chopra, and learned to teach meditation, which in hindsight, man, I think it really was a great skill set to add to our real estate business, because we deal with so much emotion, being able to ground people and like be the lightning rod to taking all their stuff, because I got my real estate license 3 days before Bear Stearns collapsed. So I cut my teeth in the down market. Really, you could not sell real estate in that period. All you could do was help people. And that's what I built my business on. Went from solo agent to building a short sale processing company. Was doing a few hundred short sales a year. Became very attractive to investors. Partnered with an investor. Started a flip company with him. Or actually, I started the real estate brokerage side. He was doing the flips. We were doing about 75 flips a year. I had an HGTV show. He had a midlife crisis in the middle of it, ran off with our 26-year-old assistant, blew up his marriage. It was awesome for reality TV. It sucked in real life. That's when I got connected with Jay Kinder and Mike Reese and started building a traditional real estate team. Scaled that up from 40 million in sales to about 160 million, left KW, and then went independent. And then I'll share the rest of that journey here, which was just some hockey stick growth. And that's kind of what the topic of my session today will be, is just kind of the insights that I learned at those different journeys.
Well, man, is that all? Oh my gosh. Dang, you're such an extreme overachiever. And I've always loved how you can just always share and give growth to others and give feedback and really great, amazing insights. So, hey, let's just jump right into this, because we're excited to hear the growth of your real estate business. So it's inside of you. So, Brett, I'm going to turn it over to you. Go ahead. Rock and roll.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm going to switch gears here and do some screen share. And I'm going to start with a story.
Script 4, direct approach.
Yeah, the direct approach. Yeah, so let me go here to, So the topic of our session is really about how the growth of your business is inside you, not outside you. And this is just a little bit of chronicle kind of my journey, which I started to share a little bit about, which we'll echo in a minute. But I want to start with a story. If anybody who is a real estate team leader or broker or coached or mentored people will sound familiar. And that is May 6th, 2016. And I'm about to walk into a one-on-one with one of the agents on my team, Jeffrey Sawhill. Now, Jeff is just coming off his best quarter, right? It's May. He in January, February, March, in the month of March, he sold 9 homes and made about over $100,000. And April, he's goose egged. May, he's goose egged. We've had 5 one-on-ones, and he's just like, it's not happening for him. And really, I'm walking into this meeting, and it's kind of the come to Jesus meeting. Really, it's one of these ones where you're like, hey, what do you want to do here? Do you want to really focus on this business, or you want to do something else? And the conversation went something like this. I was like, hey, Jeff, we've been meeting week after week here, and I've been giving you the best of what I can to help you kind of break through, go to that next level, whatever it may be. But it's not happening for you. It's a lot of action, but no traction. And I asked him, I said, what do you think is going on? He said, Brett, I've been thinking about it a lot. And the best I can gather is before I got into real estate, I worked for my dad's chiropractic office, and the most money I ever made was 80 grand in a single year. and I made $80,000 in a single month. Now, what just happened for Jeff, right? What just happened for Jeff is his level of success exceeded his self-concept. And it's not just happening for Jeff, no matter what level I'm at, you're at, it's happening to all of us. It's happening to me, it's happening to you, because all of us have what I call a success thermostat, right? It's this unconscious idea of what we feel we're capable of. And as business owners, jump back in here. As business owners, we all have this success thermostat. And what is that? That's like this unconscious idea of what we believe we're capable of. As entrepreneurs, we are constantly, looking for strategies and tactics and those things that will take us to the next level. But it's often not the strategies and tactics, right? It's we're constantly looking on the outside of what that is, but it is on the inside, because your business ultimately grows to the extent that you do. And as business owners, we're all trying to accomplish more by doing less. Whether you start out as an agent, you hire that first assistant, you're getting leverage. Whether you are using your CRM to reach more people, whether you're building your EXP downline, you're getting leverage. And leverage is powerful. In fact, Archimedes was the first person who ever really articulated this concept, the Greek philosopher, and he said, give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I can move the earth. The concept I want to open up for you all here in the next 35 minutes is that the ultimate leverage point is energy, because energy is everything. And that's not just a philosophical statement, right? Now, we can say, yeah, energy is everything. It's all about energy. But seriously, like the pinnacle of modern science, which we call quantum physics, right, will tell us this table that I knock on, that we think is solid, if we break it down to the molecules and then the atoms and then the subatomic particles, these things called protons, neutrons, and electrons, we think it's like a pebble and a grain of sand whizzing around it that makes this thing seem solid. But actually, when they really get down to it, even those things that the subatomic particles aren't particles. They're little packets of energy vibrating really, really fast. And what I want to assert as we walk through this and kind of share with you my experience is that the energy you create from determines the level of effort required and the order of your results. Just a quick recap of my background. You guys heard me start, and I don't know, Tom, if everybody was in the room when you asked me to kind of introduce myself. But yeah, I grew up in the Bay Area, had this journey, worked for Tony Robbins, which becomes relevant to the rest of my story here. 1999, went to work for this other icon in personal development, Chopra, started a financial services in 2003, sold it in 2006, lost all the money, got my license 3 days before Bear Stearns collapsed. And the picture you see there was literally like a week after I got my license. So my first little girl was born, and it was not a great time in real estate. So, but my early climb really was, I started at KW on a team. My second year in the business in 2009, I started figuring out the short sale thing. In 2010, got to me and an assistant. 2011 was me and an agent. And I hit my first million in GCI 4 years into the business. But the interesting thing was I got stuck there for 3 years. And in hindsight, I look back on it, I realized what it was. I was chasing money. I came into the business really, and it's probably true for a lot of us in real estate. The majority of people backdoor into real estate as a plan B, or maybe even a plan C. And I was not exempt from that. I came into the business really because I needed to make money and I wanted to make money. And I realized in hindsight, that was my focus. And it was 2016, around the same time I had the story I told you about my agent Jeff on the team, I got a phone call from another friend of ours, Lars Hedenborg. And Lars said, hey, man, I'm going to do something different. I know I've been building a real estate team, Brett. I know you've been trying to do this too, but I just got certified in this thing called eMyth, and I want to share the content with you guys. So he invited about me and a dozen other people, out to Charlotte for the weekend. And we got out there, and the first day, it was about 15 or so of us. The first day, in the first half of the day, all we were doing was asking really kind of this, I thought we were going to talk about systems and people and hiring, but it was really all about this why. And I have done, your big why and take care of your family and what are your goals kind of thing. But it was really, why do you get up and get after it every day? And that question culminated in an exercise, in a process where we asked the question, who's at your funeral? Like, it was this eulogy process. And it was like, who's at your funeral? Imagine you die, you're floating around the back of a church, synagogue, whatever. Who's there and what are they saying about you? I took this process to heart. He said, hey, go in the corner of this conference room, grab your journal, take your notes. And I remember coming back, I'm a little teary-eyed, wiping the tears off my face. And he's like, look at what people had to say about you and the impact you had. Look for the commonalities. And so I did that. And the second question he asked, so that when I asked that question, and this is when in hindsight for me, and I'll show you what happened in my business afterward, is nothing short of amazing. And Mark Twain, the famous American author, had this quote. He said, the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. And that day was game-changing for me. For me, what came through when I looked at my kind of journal and what the different people said about me was live, love, learn, grow, help other people do the same. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. But really what was transformational was the second question he asked me. And that was, what does your business look like if you brought all of who you are to everything you do? And I was like, he's like, well, if you had all the money and time in the world, what would you do? I said, well, I'd probably be investing in real estate and be doing just probably like business and life coaching. And he goes, well, are you doing that now? And I was like, honestly, he's like, why not? Well, the people on my team, quite honestly, at the time weren't that growth minded. It's like, okay, well, just be clear on that. And so literally, I shit you not, I fly home from Charlotte on a Sunday. I get home, get to the San Jose airport, turn my phone off airplane mode, and I'm checking my messages. And the first message is a guy on my team. And it's Steven. And he says, hey, man, I'm just leaving you a message letting you know I'm leaving the team. Okay, well, Steven was one of these what we call non-regrettable losses. Like somebody who you probably got to let go of, but you just haven't done it. And nonetheless, I was like, okay. Then I walk into the office on Monday morning and I get behind my desk and someone walks by and taps on the glass and says, Brett, we need to talk. And this was Dave. Now, Dave was a good agent. And he said, hey, I just want to let you know I'm leaving the team. And in hindsight, I realized like the clarity of clarifying my personal purpose and asking this question, it was as if, it was radical. So my whole world started to kind of just shift on its axis. And it was as if God said, let me help you knock your sandcastle down and help you recreate something new. And this is what happened. So I really got clear taking that question of what my purpose was and what it looked like in the business. And for me, it was motivate, lead, and inspire to create people to create a better life through real estate for ourselves, our partners, and our clients we serve. And this became the vision for our team. We were a team based on personal and professional growth, a place where partners love to work, goals become reality, and clients become raving fans. And this is what happened in the years right after that. We went from, I was about 40, 50 million. The next year we quadrupled, went to 165 million. 2018, then 2020, we went from 432 million to 1.2 billion. It went from almost 10x in just a very short period of time. And in hindsight, I look back on this insight really clarified for me when I look back, like what was it that did it? Was it really that clarity of purpose? And if you haven't done this exercise, I'll provide an opportunity at the end. I kind of walk people through the exact same process. Just to let you know, in that room that day, the other leaders who were in that room with me were Chris Lindahl, Dan Beer, several other people who went on to build billion-dollar businesses, went through the same process. And it was truly transformational. That was super powerful. And then, so I started coaching agents to this model. Many of you may have seen this before. When I was coaching with Jake Hinder and Mike Reese, we were literally brainstorming to build this model out. But it is just articulate the 7 stages of the real estate business. And it's how to grow your business from a solo agent to a team, doing 150 plus transactions and get yourself out of production and be more of kind of either just the operator or just an owner. And so I went deep into coaching agents. This was one of my first mentees that I helped start building a team. And it was awesome. I helped her go from, 200,000 her first year in the business. She was a solo agent. She came join me on a team. She was more than capable of building her own team from the start. But she said, I want to learn with you. So she spent a year on my team. And in 2019, I helped her start building her team and helped her scale up to 150 units and 6 agents and 4 million in GCI. And so that was incredibly fulfilling. It was life-changing for her. It was incredibly rewarding for me. And so I asked the question, what if I set a goal to help 5 agents make their first million in GCI? And in actuality, in 2021, I helped 9 out of our 50 agents hit their first million in GCI. And it was amazing. The other thing that happened was that was the year we pushed to $1 billion. And I was like, this is kind of interesting. Also had several offers from companies wanting to buy our brokerage at the time. I was like, here's what I discovered. Every agent I helped grow to $1 million in GCI added $200,000 in net profit to the company and $1 million to the value of the company. How did I know that? Because we received 6 offers on the company that year. And I was like, that's pretty interesting. You know, it's kind of like a divine design, if you will. For every person I help make $1 million, it adds $1 million to the value of the company. And that really kind of echoes one of the old, Zig Ziglar quotes. You can get everything in life if you want, if you help enough other people get what they want. So that led to my second insight. I was really like shifting focus from income to impact was a major amplifier. And this is a quote from Robbins. I didn't hear him say this much in his early days when I worked for him, but more recently I heard him say this. And this is that power moves to leaders who are truly in service of others. We got a great carpenter friend who lived a couple thousand years ago. He said, the greatest among you shall be the servant of all. The servant leadership piece for me was like, wow, there's something really here. So I said, well, let me set a goal. If I want to build a $100 million company, let's focus on helping 100 agents make their first million. And I thought the journey was going to be like this cool kind of climb up the mountain, like this image you see here. And we're just going to kind of, now that I've got a quote all figured out, this is what it's going to be like. But in actuality, it was like this over and over and over again. Why? Because we're dealing with people and helping our growth is dependent upon their growth. And when I step back and look at it, I was seeing my agents were getting stuck at 2 different phases on this roadmap to growth. Getting agents past that 2 transactions or into that 2 transactions a month and beyond, it was just like helping them and making sure that they were building that consistent habit of, prospecting every single day. And that as I scaled and grew, I couldn't do the one-on-ones as frequently. And I was like, man, they need more accountability. At the same time, I had another group of agents, my team leaders, who were stuck in production. They had a great business, they were making tons of money, but they wanted to exit production, but they just couldn't let go and get out of production. And so as I was grappling with like, man, how can I help these people? I'm on a mountain bike ride on a Saturday, and something tells me like, you know what? Go back to the scale of energy thing that you were introduced to when you did this work with Chopra. And so I went back to pull this thing out, and I'm going to walk you guys through this. It's a very powerful framework. Let me explain to you. Anybody seen this before? The scale of consciousness or energy? All right, Dave's seen it. So let me lay out what it is here. It's based on the fundamental premise that everything we experience, both in our physical world and in our internal world, is vibrating at some level of energy. Okay, it's vibrating at some frequency, and that it is measurable. This particular body of work came from a guy by the name of Dr. David Hawkins. He was a psychiatrist by training in the 1950s. He was the head of the New York State Mental Hospital outside of New York City in 1950. He had, for lack of a better word, some kind of profound awakening type of experience, after which within 6 months' time, they shut down the ward at the hospital within 6 months. Not because he abandoned his post, but because quite literally he would meet with his patients, and he was like so clear in just the embodiment of truth, love, whatever you want to call it, that people literally would see through their psychosis, their illusions, their delusions. He ended up going off kind of into seclusion for a few years and came out with this body of work, which is really about this calibrated scale of energy of consciousness. And I'll explain it to you, and here's the way it is. If you look down at the bottom, everything's energy, it's vibrating at some level. At the bottom, we have 0, there's no energy happening. And up at the top is 1,000. Now, there are certainly higher frequencies, vibrations, energies than this level, but 1,000 would be the highest level of energy that the human nervous system can embody. Okay, so at 1,000, as far as like a person hanging out there, you got like a Christ, a Buddha, an Allah, all the great avatars that have ever walked the earth would probably be there or very close to there. A couple other interesting milestones on this chart. You'll see it's obviously the spectrum of human emotion as well. But an interesting few breakpoints here is the green band you see is called energy level 200. This is the energy of integrity. Not like my thought and my word align, although those are a requirement for this level of energy. The level of integrity, energy level 200, says that anything that's vibrating or resonating below the energy level of 200 will tend towards like a downward spiral. It tends towards entropy. Things just kind of fall apart, if you will. Whereas things that vibrate or resonate above the energy level of 200 will tend towards syntropy. They tend to self-organize into higher orders of creation, effortlessness, and ease. So another thing you'll notice about this chart is, and I'll share a copy with this when we finish, by the way, is that the higher you go in energy, the more things flow. I started this conversation by saying the energy you create from will determine the level of effort required and the order of results. The higher you are hanging out in this energy, the easier it is, the more things flow. The higher you go, the more things flow. Another interesting milestone on this chart is energy level 500. If we go, courage is above 200, 250, neutrality 300, willingness 350, acceptance, reason and logic are in the 400s, energy levels 400 and above. If we were to calibrate some of the greatest thinkers of all time, you got like a Plato, a Socrates, an Einstein, they'd be calibrating at 499. What's interesting about that is that the whole energy level of the top half of the chart is energy level 500 and above. 500 is where you enter the energy of love. There's a lot of sayings about life and truisms about life that land on this chart. We know you got to get out of your head to get into your heart. That love is not a faculty of reason or logic. Love is not an emotion. Love is an energy, and it's transformational. The other thing about this chart is that the higher that you go, it's not a linear chart, meaning the energy level of 500, the level of love, is not 2.5 times the energy of 200. It's two to the 2.5 times to the 10th power. It's exponential as you go up. Interesting things that you see about life and truisms about life. You've probably all heard the saying, if somebody has having some great success in their life and they're all claiming it with their ego, we call it the pride before the fall, right? And if you look where pride is, it's just below the level of integrity. How many of you guys saw the movie Forrest Gump? Show of hands. Yeah, how many love that movie? Everybody loves that movie. Why? Because it speaks to our soul. Why? And the question I have for you is, where was Forrest Gump hanging out? This guy, you know, if life is like a box of chocolates, Jenny could do no wrong, right? He loved Jenny. And if you look, what was his life experience? It was this. It was synchronicity, miracles, and extraordinary outcomes. That is what the experience of life or reality is when you're hanging out in that energy or vibration. So the question is, okay, Brett's talking about all this stuff, but how the heck does this apply to the business? So I told you I was trying to figure out how to get my agents to the next level. And I had agents who were stuck here, kind of trying to get them to that next level. And I'm trying to get them from the yellow, if you will, right, to the green. And I'm thinking it's something about accountability. And my intuition called me to go take a look at this chart and see if there was any correlation. And I put the two side by side. And lo and behold, I look and I said, okay, I'm trying to get them from the yellow, to that next level, to the green. And I look at the yellow to the green, and it's the threshold of accountability. Interesting. Then I stepped back and I said, oh, I've got my high producers that I'm trying to get from this level, from the blue, if you will, to the purple, to get them out of production. And the thing that they're having a hard time doing is delegating and elevating. They can't let go and trust the thing. And so I look at this, and lo and behold, I'm trying to get them from the blue to the purple, and it's all about the threshold of trusting and letting go. And so in my experience, I go, wow, this is like a powerful framework to scale your personal growth as your business grows. And so let's do a quick self-assessment, because the question is, where we all have what I call an energetic or emotional home. You have a place where you predominantly hang out. And the question is, where is that? And then the second question, is it different at home and at work? I didn't know if we have a moderator here or not, because what I typically like to do at this point is do a breakout and break people up into groups of 2. We take about 3 or 4 minutes and we can answer this question. Number 1, where do you hang out? And number 2, is it different at home versus work? But Tom, if that's a little too complicated, what I'll ask we do is let's just take 2 minutes here, and I'll just ask that, we'll take a little pause, grab your journal, and just look at this and write down Okay, where do you predominantly hang out? And is it different? And Don Yoakum asked, hey, did he write the book Power versus Force? Yes, David Hawkins wrote the book. Yeah, type it in the chat. Where do you hang out mostly? Now you're going to go up and down on any given day, right? And the question is it significantly different at home versus work? I know I got 20.
I'm going to write it in the chat, but I'm reason and logic generally.
Okay. Willingness, same at home. Megan says willingness, same at home versus work. Tom says he's hanging out in the sauna. I don't know what he's checking out, but Torn, reason and logic, but also courage. Okay, reason and logic, congruent, same at home and at work. That's fantastic. Anybody? Okay, here we go. Courtney says, I think I'm mostly hanging out at willingness. Sometimes I'm in desire at work, especially if I feel like I'm short of my goal. Abso-freaking-lutely. Thanks for taking the time to think about that. The question is, if it is different for you at home and work, it speaks to a level of integration for you, that there's probably more work. There's work and opportunity to do. How does this apply to your personal growth? Well, we mentioned that the energy you create from determines the level of effort required and the order of your results. And here's what I personally found. I mentioned to you, like my early journey coming out of college, I worked for Tony Robbins for a couple of years. And then I had Tom's a big fan too. And here's the interesting thing about the body of work that Tony Robbins does. Like his core mission and purpose in life, his signature program was called UPW, Unleash the Power Within. This is where we walked on fire. And it was really, he's really good at taking people from red, orange, and yellow, like from fear and desire, and then getting them into courage. In fact, the title of his program, that UPW, is called Fear into Power. It's great. Guess what? Like, you can't jump from grief to love in one shot. All of our personal growth journey is, in fact, a journey. However, it doesn't end there. And what I found personally, because when I left working for him, I was 28 years old. I went and made $500,000 that year. And I look back on my experience. Guess what? By the time I was 30, I lost all the money I made. Why? I look back on it and I was massively in this fear, like a little bit, not fear, it was desire for sure. I was like so in desire that it is below the level of integrity. That like I realized my creations that I created were not steady, were not stable. For those of you that said, hey, I'm kind of hanging out in courage, neutrality, and willingness, it's not a bad place to be. In fact, if we look at that we go back and look at chart on the business, hanging out in the blue and the green, I mean, it means you got a business, you're doing 40 to 150 deals a year, depending on your price points. You're probably making $500,000 to a couple $1,000,000 a year. It's not a bad place to be. But the question is, like, what is that next level? So what I found when I left working for Robbins, I went to work for this guy, Deepak Chopra. This is where this whole thing kind of came together for me. When I look back on it, I was like, okay, Robbins, got really good at setting and getting goals, getting out there, taking massive action. But I realized it was this place of effort and willpower. I went to work for this Chopra guy, and he was like, Brett, this is just about, and literally having the opportunity to spend 200 days on the road with Tony Robbins and see how this guy lives and moves and creates in his world. And then having the reference point of this Chopra guy. Chopra was like on a whole freaking other level. Time magazine named him Man of the Millennium. He's meeting with these world leaders. And his thing was, Brett, just have a clear intention. Intention is desire without attachment. It's basically just an intention. Release it into the energy of love and watch the field freaking create. And I watched this guy. I was like, holy shit. This is just a whole nother level. And so it really, my personal journey now has been about, helping entrepreneurs and high achievers move beyond the energy of hustle and grind into these spaces and places of flow, and ultimately to get to these places of align and allow. But here's the deal. What I found with a lot of high performers, and this is what Tom and I discovered in our entrepreneurs group that we're in together. One of the guys who came into our group was a former chief learning officer for a major Fortune 500 company. When he came into our group, we got guys. It's mostly men's group, so Courtney, don't feel any, don't take any offense to it. But he went in, he was totally curious. He went and interviewed. We got like 300 guys in the group. He interviewed like 50 guys, and he came back. He's like, it's pretty interesting. I noticed something. He says, the average population indexes to trauma, meaning, they've had some life experience. They feel shaped them, made them the way they are, good or bad in some way, by about 65% for the average population. He's like, you high performers? It's like 95%. I was like, wow. And I realized that was the case. I noticed that with a lot of my high performers in helping them go to that next level. It is getting to the awareness that what drives you no longer serves you. You know, typically something happened and you crafted, engineered a way to leverage that traumatic experience and develops yourself in some way so that you got really good at doing one thing. But at some point, what drives you no longer serves you. And to get to that next level, it is about letting go. So ultimately, this whole journey about energy, I want to share a vision with you all, because this whole Department of Justice thing that we just been through, like, let me ask this question. And I want, please participate. There's 20 people left online. I want you to type in, where do you think the average real estate transaction calibrates at? Where's the energy of the average real estate transaction? Given we've got typically a seller who thinks their house is worth a little bit more than it is. You got a buyer who's making a $500,000 to $1 million decision they've never made before. You've got an agent, a buyer's agent typically, that's like, oh my God, man, I hope I get this deal. And you got a listing agent who's also in there. What do you guys think? Matt says between fear and pride. Megan says fear and desire. Courtney says fear. It's loaded with fear, right? No wonder if this is true, that the higher you go in energy, the more things flow. It's no wonder that it takes 43 people from 13 different industries to freaking drag a transaction across the finish line, you know? But let me ask you all another question. How many of you done a transaction with a sphere of influence, somebody you know, like, and trust, they know, like, and trust you, maybe even love them? How did that transaction go? In most cases, it flows, right? I mean, it's interesting. I gave this talk in John Cheplak's group, and there was a group of ladies there, and we were talking all different types of lead generation. And these ladies were just sphere of influence only. They'd really done an amazing job of building predictable, scalable business through sphere of influence. And like their marketing spend was like 25 grand a year for $750,000 in income. And they closed lots of transactions because they were hanging out and they were doing it really high and a high level of energy. So here's what I want to invite as a vision. What would our industry look like if we could elevate the energy of the real estate transaction to the level of love, right? I mean, we're in this DOJ thing because honestly, that's where we've been. So that's as far as like what my personal mission and for my personal business and my team and the company that I run is I'm inspiring our agents to come from the servant leadership place and really to elevate the level of real estate transaction to the level of love. So where do we go from here? It starts with you. And ultimately, I mentioned to you the most powerful part of my journey, if you will, starts with why. It's really getting crystal clear about your deeper purpose. And I can tell you your deeper purpose, it's not about, making money. And I mean, that may be a purpose, but that's not your deepest purpose. It's not about you, ultimately. I have a gift that I want to share with y'all. This QR code will actually go to, if you scan it, it's going to go to an expired Eventbrite. But for those of you that are interested or willing, I teach a course really on how to scale a business more than how to generate leads and do such. How to scale a business around these principles. The course I delivered inside the platform that I'm a part of called Side. But one of the modules I do is on purpose, and I take people through this exercise. If you all want to go through that process, I'll connect with Tom, and we will put something on the calendar. It takes about 60 minutes, but I'll guide you guys through that, and it is incredibly powerful. Like I said, it's the same process that Dan Beer, who's our Be Generous guy, I mentioned his name, Chris Lindahl, and several other leaders went through that have also scaled to $1 billion or more. But that would be my gift to you. I'm not looking for anything in return of it. But if you'd like to do that, happy to do it. Also want to share some resources for the journey, because this journey is not about most of what people think about personal growth is getting your mindset right, getting your habits right. This is way beyond that, because mindset's great. It's great for creating results, but really what we're after here is heart set and soul set. If we look back this is another version of this chart. If you look back at this chart going from 0 to 1,000, the whole top half of the chart, all the power is in 11 above. And it's getting beyond the thinking mind. Meditation is a powerful practice. I've been meditating for 30 years, but these are a few great resources that these are books, obviously. If you haven't listened to The Surrender Experiment, it's a powerful book written by Michael Singer. He built a multi-billion-dollar company was created around him because he was on this journey. And really this journey is about letting go. It's letting go of, you are already an unlimited being. pretending that you're not. And this is just about letting go of all these ideas that you're not. Thoughts or questions?
Read Power versus Force by David Hawkins when I was building the Keller Williams Roseville office. And one of the things that I became mindful of is that I had a cumulative score in my brokerage, and every hire that I made would either elevate that vibration or it would degrade it, right? So it just made me more conscious of the people that I brought into our brokerage and world. And that office also only went on to become the most profitable KW in the country. So we had to get some good vibration.
Yeah, we've got a good lineage of leadership from our old KW days. I know Mark Willis was a big fan of David Hawkins when he was in leadership there. Was deeply inspired by his work, and it's powerful stuff. It is really, really powerful stuff. It's not logical because it's you're going beyond the rational mind, but it is really about this journey of letting go and moving into more and more love. Nick says, interesting. I'm in a PhD program. My dissertation's on fear removal. It looks like I'm in the right room.
Hey, the QR code that you had flashed on the slide, I think before or 2 slides ago, something like that. I clicked on it and it says the event has ended. It doesn't.
So Tom, I'd be willing to do a session for those that are interested in the group. We can schedule that.
Yeah. So just reach out to me if you're interested, and we'll get that on the books. Okay, we're running short on time. Brett, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And I love what you're sharing about, you started off with energy, and I love the quote, the difference between one man and another is not mere ability, it's energy. So this is awesome. Well, Don Yoakum, I know you've got an upcoming event next Wednesday. What's going on?
Yeah, well, I know several of us had the great privilege of seeing Amir present AI in Cabo earlier this year. He did an amazing job. And since that time, he's continued to be a student of how AI can be applied successfully in the real estate arena. And so next Wednesday for Atomic Habits, he's shared with us his latest learnings, and he's just come off another training that he went through. So we're going to get it fresh. And I'm sure he'll do an amazing job. So please be here. I encourage your folks to be here as well, and we'll deliver the value. And Brett, thank you again for reminding us to come from love, baby. That's good stuff.
Awesome. And then don't forget EXPCon. We'll go ahead and post that in the chat. It's coming up at the end of this month. And it just big things happen at big events. And it's just an opportunity for you all to grow. And it's also an opportunity to bring others to also grow as well. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Brad. And like I always say, now you got your inspiration, time to put in the perspiration. So have a great day. Have a great week. Thanks, guys.